to listen to somebody mansplain the base rules of football to you, you're not going to get that podcast today. Matt's in Cabo drinking lots of tequila. If he comes in here, I'm just going to silence his ass for the most part, and that will be fun. How's everybody doing? Starting off talking shit about somebody who's not even here. If he was here, I'd be talking the same amount of shit because he keeps saying Baker Mayfield is trash and he just won himself a fucking playoff game. We'll get into that. How's it going? Welcome to My Brother is an Idiot. I am Mark. Hi. Short staff tonight. We're playing with a lot of injuries, a lot of people on the pup list. With me tonight is my steadfast and true partner, my brother-in-law, Tank. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, everybody.
Doing How's things going in Southern Command right now?
Coming up with new cookie recipes at the moment.
Cookies. What you got? You want to let anything out of the laboratory as far as secrets, or you?
The three new ones I started the process on today was a strawberry lemonade sugar cookie, a pineapple upside down cookie.
Oh my god!
And a caramel cheesecake brulee cookie.
Now, see, like the other two sound awesome. You know, like I am all about both of those other things. But when you say brulee and caramel, like you are speaking my language right there. That is, if anything was me flavored, it would be crunchy sugar, crunchy dark sugar. Like that's just me right there. Just crunchy dark sugar. Oh. Speaking of crunchy dark sugar, I've got myself an old fashioned today with a little bit of a fruit salad in it.
There you go.
The same company that makes the cherries that we like makes strawberries and ginger. So I have ginger and strawberries in my old fashioned as well as my cherries. So yeah,
interesting approach to an old fashioned. Yeah.
I mean, all of those fruits are delicious. Anyways, that's enough of that. Let's get into the meat of the stuff, and we're going to talk about some sports tonight, guys. Kicking off and we're going around the horn. Let's just start with what plays the hits, and what plays the hits is the NFL. And what a weekend of the NFL it was. I just noticed you have a TV there. How long has that TV been there?
Roughly 2 years.
Okay, back on track. We had wild card weekend, guys. I'm just gonna. We had a wild card weekend, and the games themselves were not super over interesting, but the results of the games were very interesting. And so let's go through them one by one, shall we? First game I want to talk about is the Houston Texans, who covered the over-under by themselves, putting up 45 on the vaunted Cleveland Browns defense. And the over-under on that game was 44 points. You know, Houston got 45. So they covered the over-under by themselves in that one. Frank, what do you think?
Yeah, and more than covered I believe it was a 3.5 point spread.
The Browns were favored by 2.5.
2.5. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Browns defense seemed to just fall off a cliff in the most important game of the year. So like legitimately historically good defense. They were for the regular season, they were one of the top defenses in NFL history, legitimately one of the top defenses. And Stroud tore them to pieces. And so did Singletary, honestly. Like, they got beat up on every part of that game.
Not only that, but Joe Flacco kind of looked like Joe Flacco finally. 38-year-old Joe Flacco finally had himself a Joe Flacco game, right?
Yeah, old footsteps. Flacco decided to throw away the game in the first half, literally.
I don't think they're being serious when they're talking about it, because I read it as very tongue-in-cheek, but I saw a lot of people's opinions that were like, well, Joe Flacco shows his true colors as a Raven once again.
Yeah.
Beating the Browns one more time, just waiting for him to get in the playoffs.
One of the best double agent stories in a long time, yeah. he got him there just to disappoint them and give the Ravens a better, easier path in
It's so
theory.
good. It's so good. I love that
Now,
story.
I would potentially agree with that if it wasn't for the fact that the Cleveland Browns ate complete shit on defense as well. And guess what? He's not out there playing safety.
No.
So he may have screwed up on offense, and we can debate that. But even if you take away the 2 pick sixes, they still won by 20. So that tells me the defense ate shit harder than Flacco did in that game.
The NFL got worst case scenario on a lot of these games. You know, we're going to talk about a bunch of them, and there weren't very many close ones. In fact, there was only one score game
Yeah.
this weekend. And let's go ahead and talk about that game now, just to get it out of the way. Let's talk about the Rams and the Lions. This is the one game this weekend I didn't watch. We had a birthday party, and I am very sad because it was the best football played all weekend.
Combined effort, yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's the best football game.
And both of the defenses, I think, did a incredible job of slowing down their counterparts, especially in the run game on both sides. Like the Rams had to get away from the run early, which is unfortunate because honestly, as much as George Nakua has been this year, that run game was their bread and butter for the last few weeks, and they stepped away early because they were down early. And I think ultimately that's what ended up costing them, is not sticking with the run and taking some more time to develop their run game during the course of it. And I think that really hurt them.
I think that actually hurt a few teams, and we'll get into that too. But I completely wholeheartedly agree with you. There were some teams that forgot the fundamentals of January football and just completely abandoned the run this weekend, and it showed in the win-loss column. Speaking of which, let's talk about how Baker Mayfield is probably not trash anymore. This guy is costing less than $1 million for the cap. He made over $4 million, but most of those are just things that he did to make his contract work. This guy is playing out of his mind right now in Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay, and they destroyed the Eagles.
And I can see like they looked rough the last couple weeks, not putting up a lot of points, all that kind of stuff. But and when it came down to knuckle it up when it was needed, he showed out against this what is supposed to be fantastic Eagles defense. And God, he just beat the brakes off of them for that game. And they could do nothing on offense to counter.
They completely abandoned the run game. Abandoned the run game.
I believe there was 15 rushing attempts for the Eagles in that game.
Sirianni deserves all of the criticism he's getting. I'm not going to say he deserves to be fired because I wouldn't take it that far. But there is a lot to be said about the fact that once he beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead and had that meltdown on the field and then off the field, he's been a completely different coach, and that team has been completely different since that happened. I'm not going to say there's a giant conspiracy theory, but they look completely different after that game.
Well, and they also massively changed up some of their coordinating efforts, seemingly for the wrong. I mean,
No, absolutely.
Go
ahead. No, you go ahead.
They switched up the DC. They switched up the actual defensive play calling system about halfway through the season, and I don't know what they did offensively. I don't know, because I didn't hear much on the offensive side change, but still, like, their offense disappeared. So
overnight.
Something happened.
Jalen's not healthy. AJ Brown is frustrated. I don't know if he's particularly healthy. The criminal thing is what they did to DeAndre Swift, just not getting him the football at all. And, there were a few swing passes they tried to get him on, but Jalen couldn't get him the ball on those. And there's no consistency in play calling, right? Like, it seemed like they would do massive overhauls of their play calling every quarter, especially defensively. They just called the game completely different with every quarter, and it looked atrocious. Like, the players just didn't know what was going on because they just kept over adjusting to everything. There was over blitz one quarter and then not blitz at all the second quarter. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, and then there was that, but I think even that was part of it, definitely, is that they would change up a lot of what they were doing. But then they seemingly also took away any control that Desai had over the defense. Which, if you're bringing a guy in to run your defense, like they did with Desai,
Yeah.
you should probably let him do it instead of bringing in who has essentially shown his inability within any system that isn't Bill Belichick's to actually coach by bringing in Matt Patricia
Yeah.
on defense and letting him run it. Because, like you were saying, like there wasn't much. There was defensive changeups, but the problem was those were all surface changeups. It may have been stylistically, or not stylistically changed up. It may have been changed up on the surface on the base sets and stuff like that. But Patricia notoriously can't run anything besides like 3 different alignments. And if you know those alignments, which anyone that's watched tape on him coaching defense can easily pick up, that's all he does. There might be some change ups on the packages and the player personnel and stuff like that, but you can beat his defenses if you've seen him, because he runs a very limited playbook, to be honest.
Yeah.
Defensively, and you could see that like people were picking up what to do and just hammering the shit out of them in the second half of the games. And I don't know, like
there's got to be some changes in Philly. I don't think the headman's got to go, but if he has a repeat performance of this, he's too emotional of a guy, and it seems to take his team on rides. They go up with his highs and they go down with his lows. And I know I said this before, but just the childish behavior he had during that Chiefs game.
Yeah, it's funny though.
It's funny, but when your quarterback is telling you to put your hands down and you're walking off the field yelling at fans like at the top of your lungs like a fucking 13-year-old, it's a bad look to the rest of your team, who is a bunch of 23-somethings who just got out of college and all want to do that too, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're buying too much into that Philadelphia is a bunch of assholes, and it's too much leaning into what Philadelphia is, and it's not a good way to coach football. It's just not.
And honestly, if I were going back to the coaching thing, if I were Brian Johnson, I would stay in Philly for one more year.
Before he goes back to AC/DC?
Yeah, exactly. Because he was a hot coaching prospect coming in this year to potentially take one of these jobs. Based on their offensive output over the last 6-7 weeks, he needs to take a step back and reevaluate what he's doing. And here's the problem though: how much of it is what he's doing, and how much of it is what Sirianni is imposing onto Brian Johnson at this point? Maybe that's the case. If that's the case, then maybe find somewhere else. Yeah,
right.
Because it was a colossal failure on behalf of the Eagles. Like the second half of the season into the playoffs, they were 10-1, dominating. And then they just never got
gagged it away.
Yeah.
Gagged it away. Literally gagged it away.
Yeah, and they never got to a point where like, oh, this team seems dangerous. Because even at 10-1, it's like you're dominating, but there's been a lot of really close games. There's been a lot of failures offensively and defensively, even to that point. And then they hit the hard part of the schedule and just ate shit.
Speaking of eating shit, let's move on to a game that we all wanted to talk about, and this is going to lead into a bunch of other conversations. Tank, you got this one right. I did too, thankfully. And so I still have my nuts intact. And not only did Jordan Love play the best first half he could possibly play, but the worst defensive coordinator in the NFL looked like the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. And the Cowboys got absolutely fucking rolled at home by the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. 27-0 start to that game.
Oh my god, it was insane. It was so good.
It was so bad that because they put Love back into the game, he actually reduced his QBR because he threw an incomplete pass. So he didn't have a perfect game. He almost had a perfect rating, but he had one too many incompletions.
Yeah, I saw that on that very last drive of the game when they were trying to put it in the end zone. I was like, oh, well, that sucks.
Yeah. It's like, why?
16 for 20 for 272 and 3 tutties is pretty good, though, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, and they just dismantled that defense, who, once again, Dallas coming in. Oh, they have the best defense. Oh, they're so amazing. They get to the quarterback. They blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, they did fucking nothing to even slow down the youngest team in the NFL, where most of these players have never been to a playoff game.
No. The most of these guys have watched playoff games, and that's about it. You know,
Yeah.
like their oldest starting player was actually on the sidelines the entire time on the offense. You know, he hasn't played all year. So
Yeah.
Green Bay looked great. They can ride. I hope they can keep that running game going. They got a big bounce back game from someone who's been hurt a little while and ended up scoring 3 touchdowns on the ground. And that helps when you're that balanced of an attack. You can do a lot of damage. I don't know how it plays out this weekend, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But that is a scary team, and they are built for the next 3 or 4 years.
And honestly, like, it was good that they game planned the way they did with Aaron Jones and just getting him the ball.
Oh, yeah.
And he just ate against that Dallas defense, which the biggest concern they've had all year is, can they defend against the run? Because that's the issue they ran into a couple times. And Aaron Jones showed that no, they cannot defend. And he just ate them alive as much as he wanted.
That offensive line for Green Bay made the Dallas defense look silly. They could not get pressure on Jordan Love. And the few times they were able to get to him, he was able to make some unbelievable throws that, like, you don't see guys that are they were very Mahomes-esque. You know what I mean? That sidearm touchdown throw was unbelievable. The other throw where he throws it 25 yards on a dime across his body while his feet are in the air. Yeah. You know,
that throw off the back foot where he just kind of floated it, and it's like, Jesus, all
God. Right. He sees the field so well, and he's got the arm strength to get it there. It's impressive to watch.
Yeah, and like, the only unfortunate aspect of this game and them dominating Dallas so thoroughly is that Joe Barry is going to probably remain the defensive coordinator in Green Bay. So sorry for that. But because they were able to shut down Dallas's, like, the second half of that game means nothing. They were playing garbage time for the entire second half.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And like the 32 points that Dallas had, so much of that was freebie shit that they just kind of.
Let's talk about how Green Bay missed the over for the entire game by 3 points. The over-under for that game was 50 and a half. The Green Bay offense, or not just the offense, but Green Bay as a team put up 48. So they missed the over-under for the entire game by 3 points. That's embarrassing.
Yeah. And that's how a lot of these games went this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I will say one positive for Dallas. You got a hell of a fucking tight end there with Jake Ferguson.
Yeah.
He's going to be a problem in the future. Mm-hmm. That guy seems to get open quite easily. You know, that.
Well, let's talk about the future for the Dallas Cowboys a little bit while we're talking about it. Obviously, Jake Ferguson's going to be there. Apparently, they still have a head coach. Schefter tweeted out, about an hour ago, maybe an hour and a half ago now, that it's breaking news that they are not changing head coaches and Fat Mike stays in Dallas. What do you think about this fucking crazy move?
I understand the decision from not being Jason Garrett. I understand that. Like, he's doing better than that. He went 12-5. They have
Okay.
one win in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But the issue is this guy, once again, kind of seems like he's not a closer. He can't finish in the NFL. Same issue he had in Green Bay. He can't finish in the NFL. He
He's
gets
also,
outcoached.
yeah, he is terrible at time management.
Yeah.
He's bad with his timeouts. Almost every game, he has just a fucking bonehead challenge or timeout issue.
Mhm.
Some of his play calling is questionable. End of first half decision making is awful. And even Dak Prescott suffered from some really bad decision making in this football game. And they're starting to talk like he's probably on his way out in Dallas, too.
And that's not incorrect, to be honest. I mean, you can't pin it all on Dak, obviously, but he made some dumbass mistakes in this last game, seemingly saving up all of his dumbass mistakes from the regular season to just let it roll out in the first half of the playoff
Yeah.
game here.
Right.
Because he had a great regular season, MVP level regular season. Looked fantastic. But he could not make a good decision to save his ass against this Green Bay defense, who was not that good.
Oh.
And he just could not. God, his interceptions were so terrible. They were unnecessary throws, you know, and just, yeah, they seemingly from top to bottom, like, they have an incredibly skilled team on paper, but they can't put it together, which is unfortunately the story of the Dallas Cowboys for 25 years at this point, or whatever it's been, where they have the talent but cannot fucking make it work.
It's a very interesting juxtaposition in this game where you had, the Dallas Cowboys who, Dak Prescott is very established. They have established players on the outside. They have very established players on the defense who looked awful. Stephon Gilmore played his worst game as a pro.
Yeah, that was bad.
But then you have these upstart, the Green Bay Packers, and they're finally running LaFleur's system the way it's supposed to be run. And you see the genius that he's doing with his coaching. That is a well-run team. Like, just, when you have someone like Jair Alexander who gets suspended for a game because he did something bonehead, but they put the hammer down on it and said, no, you're not playing. And are you telling me that something like that would happen with Jerry Jones? He is 100% in his players' back pockets. And so that would absolutely not happen in Dallas. And I think this is a Jerry Jones issue. He continues to want to run the team, and he continues to want to coach from the press box. And Dallas will continue to do shit like this until Jerry gives up the reins of the general managing to somebody else. And it can't be his son. It's got to be someone with some football knowledge.
Well, and part of that, reality is it's the curse of Jimmy Johnson.
It is.
That
It absolutely
mistake, that was a mistake. Yes, they won a Super Bowl after that, but that was his team that they won a Super Bowl with.
Yep.
And ever since then, they tried to alleviate it, apparently, by putting him in their Hall of Fame. But apparently that didn't work. That sacrifice to the gods didn't pay out, apparently.
Can we how much more do we want to cover the Cowboys? Because you just gave me a good segue into the next one.
Go for it, yeah. But seemingly, yeah, like none of that worked, and this team still has functional issues across the entire team. And that's what it is.
We have two more games to cover from this weekend. I want to talk about I think the most boring game. The only thing interesting about the Steelers and Bills games was the weather in Buffalo and the graphics of every time they scored a touchdown, seeing that entire stadium just throwing snow in the air like it was fireworks was awesome. It looked so good on television. Like, that was the greatest part of the weekend for me. The other part was I discovered, and I think I said it to you guys this morning, but I can't remember if I did or not. The Bills, and this was almost my dipshit of the week, and I'm still kind of holding that it might be, but the Bills in their win streak have come up with an interesting tradition. And I don't know if you saw this, Frank, but they are building a new stadium in Buffalo that's pretty close to where the old one was.
Yeah.
And the fans have been going to check it out because it's a big fucking hole in the ground right now.
Mhm.
Now, when the fans go in there, they're not supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be a closed off construction site. People have been falling into the hole and getting hurt and having to get people to get them out. Um, it's become a thing in Buffalo. They have shirts that you can buy called uh, "Give to the Pit." This is a thing in Buffalo now where they are sacrificing human beings into a hole in the ground in Buffalo in order to get their team to win. Like, this is the kind of thing that Buffalo is doing. Like, this is why they fucking smash tables all the time. This is why,
They throw
like,
dildos.
this is Bill's Mafia at its finest. They are doing human sacrifice into a hole in the ground in order to win these games. And it's been a tradition for the last 6 weeks. I
Yep.
think it's fucking hysterical. And it's the most interesting part about this game.
Well, apparently the first time it happened was just a drunken dipshit accident. Apparently,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
dude fell into the fucking hole, and they had to get a rescue crew essentially to get his dipshit ass out. And then apparently, because they won that game,
They just kept doing it.
they have been paying penance to the hole or the pit. Sorry, because they
Yeah,
do
the pit.
specify that it's a pit,
It's a pit.
and they're throwing human corpses into the pit. Apparently,
Live ones. And they have sources that are at the emergency room that is closest to that area that can confirm this. Like, there are doctors that are saying, well, I can't tell you who it is, but I can tell you it's been happening.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not releasing names, but apparently the fans are sacrificing themselves to the pit. And I guess it's working. I don't really.
So we know the story. The NFL changed the date of the game because of the feet of snow that Buffalo gets because of lake effect. And there were a lot of people with the Saturday game who were comparing the two. The Chiefs and Miami were comparing the two. There wasn't any precipitation. There wasn't any danger to the fans in the area. I mean, obviously there was some danger. Yeah, frostbite. But if people are dressed appropriately, I mean, everyone in Kansas City looked like they were dressed appropriately for the most
Minus
part.
a few
I don't
idiots
know.
without their shirts on, but that happens.
There's
every
always,
time.
yeah. You get 75,000 of your closest dumbasses together. There's going to be a couple fucking brain trusts in there, isn't there? But it was an unsafe thing. So they moved the game to Monday, and I thought the visual was very cool. They scored a touchdown. Snow gets thrown in the air. I loved it. Field was clean. Who cares? It was fun.
And they had to pay people to come in and by hand remove snow because there's so much of it. And they were doing that for 2 days. So that should give you an idea of how much snow there actually was.
There's nothing quite like a snowstorm on the Great Lakes or in that area, with that, what they call the lake effect, where the cold air gets pulled. This is me getting all meteorology. The cold air gets pulled off and it just pulls all the moisture, and then it runs into something that, is just like a city. And then that moisture just gets dumped because of the hot air. And it just happens to Buffalo constantly. And nobody should be surprised by this, but it makes for a very interesting game this weekend where there's going to be a guy who has dealt with some cold very recently and knows how to play, but he's on the road for the first time. And that's Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. I really enjoyed the Kansas City and Dolphins game. It did not feel like a 26-7 game to me. It felt a lot closer. It felt like a one-score game the entire time. It was a fun game to watch. What did you think about this one, Frank?
I would agree for the most part. It didn't seem like it got out of hand until the fourth quarter. And seemingly at that point, the Dolphins had just given up.
Yeah,
is what it seemed like. Like they just stopped doing anything to even attempt like first downs or throwing the ball or really anything.
It's another team who completely abandoned the run, right?
Yeah, which, god damn, like they have running backs that can do well.
Yeah.
And they just didn't care. Even Mostert, at the end of the game, he still was running strong. The few times they went to him in the second half of that game. He still looked good. I'm like, why are you stepping away from this? Why are you having this issue? Because, yeah, I understand you're warm weather, but they didn't look like they were getting beaten up by the cold. They looked like they were just getting beat up on the field.
Yeah. And that weather was so cold. The video that, everyone saw that went viral of the water bottle that somebody pulled out of a cooler. First off, they had to unglue it from the bottom because it was frozen. And they pulled it out of the sub 40 degree cooler. And then that motherfucker started freezing right in front of you. And then you see these guys on the field and you see how red their arms are because they're trying to be tough, in the first quarter. And you see throughout the game, there is less skin, and less skin by the minute, It looked absolutely miserable there. I'm sure it was a great environment in Arrowhead. It always is. What a fun place to play. The fans were super into it. It wasn't a sold-out playoff game, which is very rare for the NFL, but I thought it was just a very fun January football game.
And once again, the Chiefs' offense looked a little better, especially late in that game.
Rashee Rice is actually catching the football.
Yeah.
They have a receiver.
And, that's a step in the positive direction, but I'm going to go ahead and say, honestly, I'm still not impressed by that offense this year. I think they got very lucky. They ran into a team that was kind of beaten up defensively and seemingly just gave up in the fourth quarter once again. They seemed to, because it was a close game for the first three quarters. That game was close the whole time. And then the Dolphins just gave up, it seemed like, and Kansas City was able to take advantage of that and get a couple touchdowns on the board late. But I'm still not impressed with that offense.
When they were talking to McDaniels coming out of halftime, he seemed like he was on the fritz. These are two of my three favorite head coaches in football right now. We're playing in this game with the Lorax and Mike McDaniels. I don't know if you saw the Andy Reid stuff halfway through the second quarter where his mustache was just
frozen solid,
completely walrusy, but he looked exactly like the Lorax. It was hilarious. But McDaniels just looked like he was just confounded by everything. Like he was just using big words that made no sense.
No, yeah. That dude was trying to explain away some shit that he didn't understand.
Yeah. He sounded drunk. I know he wasn't, but that's the way he sounded. Like, I wouldn't blame him if he was with that weather. Like, there's no reason to be outside in that cold unless you're in a football game.
Being paid to be there. Yeah. The amount of people that paid to be there is impressive, actually.
So, sorry, go ahead. Continue. I'm sure you got something else.
I just wanted to backtrack half a second to the Bills game.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to speak to the fake slide that everyone's bitching about this week. That was not a fake slide. It was a change in direction. You could see by how he cut. His body didn't go horizontal. He literally stopped, changed directions, and went the other way. So get the fuck over it. It didn't look anything. It wasn't a fake slide. If the defense legitimately thought it was a fake slide, that guy needs to be taught what a slide looks like, because that's not what it is. That wasn't anything. And yeah, Josh Allen just beat them to pieces again once, but an impressive run that apparently people just can't take, because I don't know.
There are a lot of people out there who think that even though the Steelers got blown out in this one, that Mason Rudolph, Mr. Helmetless himself, has earned himself a starting job somewhere else in the NFL next year.
And part of that is his coach's fault, because he said it's going to be a competition, and Mason is included in that competition. And I'm like, the competition should be, can we trick any teams into taking all three of these quarterbacks so that we can get some new ones? So
right.
That should be the competition. Because you have three fucking dorks on that sideline that don't know what the fuck they're doing with a football.
Yeah, and the biggest dork is I love Mike Tomlin, but the way he kind of abruptly ended that press conference just felt like sour grapes to me.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Mike Tomlin is notoriously a fiery guy during press conferences, and he seemed defeated after this one. And when he was approached, pretty generically about, hey, Mike, your contract is up in a year. And that was the only part of the question that lady got out. And
Mm-hmm.
he just boogied.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was childish, and I thought that Mike Tomlin could have done a lot better.
He should have. That was, I understand his desire to not hear that question specifically, but he should have answered that question simply and said there has been no conversation in that regard at this point, and then continued the press conference instead of being a fucking crybaby right there.
It's going to happen. Those
Yeah.
questions are going to get asked. This is the
Yeah.
first time, and he's still, he got over 500 again, so that streak is still alive. He's not a dead in the water coach,
No,
but
he's
the
what
question needs to be asked of Mike Tomlin. Hey, how are you feeling? And the appropriate time is right after the game to ask those questions. Just deal with it and move on. It's not a terrible question like the one about playing a dome in
that was
Detroit
fucking
that we heard.
hilarious.
That was fucking retarded. That was the silliest question I've ever heard.
Yeah,
Apologize
no
for that
using the
word.
R word.
Yeah, sorry about that. I know better. It just
Well,
kind of came out.
and he is, I think, even people may hate him, and I understand the hatred for him, but he legitimately is still one of the better coaches in the NFL. At
Yeah,
the very least, top 10
top
coaches
10.
in the NFL. Um, and my question to him would not be, should you be fired? It's maybe you should move on, Andy
Yeah.
Reid style, and find a new team to maybe make them better and get out of this, because seemingly they're stuck in a rut where they don't know what they're doing, and they're just kind of repeating this cycle of being good enough to get the playoffs but not good enough to win a game, and just get their asses stomped in the first round.
Well, and
So yeah.
you gotta love Pittsburgh um, for their consistency and not getting rid of coaches and flying off the handle and that kind of thing. Like that is admirable,
Hmm.
but it's almost to a fault at this point.
Oh, it's definitely to a fault. They've needed to move on from two different coaches in the last 30 years, and they did not do so when it was necessary. And that's why I'm hoping Tomlin, for his own sake, he's still young enough to keep going for another at least probably 20 years.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
maybe he needs a change of scenery to make that happen. And his contract ends next year, so maybe he should voluntarily at that point say, "No, I'm going to step away and find something else."
I am going to ask you a question just to kind of put a bow on this, and I'm very interested to hear your response on this question.
Mm.
But if you had a wild card weekend MVP, would you pick Jordan Love or CJ Stroud or somebody I didn't mention?
To me, I think what CJ Stroud has done with the Texans was more impressive. And the only reason I say that is because um, Jordan has had the privilege of sitting back for a couple years. And I think that added a lot to his ability. And I think he showed tremendous poise in his first playoff game, and he did a fantastic job in that game. But the fact that CJ Stroud was able to take a team of misfits, which is what the fucking Texans are this year, and pick apart one of the best defenses in the league almost single handedly, has got to warrant, um, like you're saying, this wild card MVP. Like, he basically secured 100% without a doubt Rookie of the Year, which was in debate between him and Puka for a good chunk of the year, but I don't think you can shy away from it. He did something amazing with this Texans team.
If D'Amico Ryans doesn't win Coach of the Year this year, something's
I don't
wrong.
think he will, but I think that's going to go to Stefanski, just because
Oh, come
what
on.
he was able to do with no quarterbacks is kind of impressive.
Oh, come on. I just hate the Browns. Like either I don't know. I like D'Amico Ryans. I'm kind of anti-Texan right now just because they were complicit. You
Oh
know.
yeah, good
So
thing most of those people are actually gone. They only
right, yeah,
can't get
they
rid of the
clean
one at the
house.
top, unfortunately, because
Right,
that's all.
because he owns the
Yeah,
place, owns everything.
yeah.
Anyways, the games weren't that interesting, but the outcomes were, and I thought it was a
They're
lot of
funny.
fun this weekend. Yeah. Speaking of funny, let's go over some picks right now, shall we? And this is we've already talked about the games themselves, but overall, Frank, you went 4-2 this weekend. If you'd have stuck with your gut, you would have only missed one game, but you decided, even though you're wearing the hat, you decided to go against your pick.
Yeah.
My brother, who's not here to defend himself, went 2 for 4 this week.
Yeah.
The Baker Mayfield is trash thing has been funny this year. Unfortunately, it's not true anymore. He's actually playing pretty good football. And I know that Matt hates that. I know Matt hates everything about that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's true. The guy is outplaying his contract, and he's bought himself a starting job on. If it's not in Tampa Bay next year, it's for another team, and he's going to be making $20 million.
If it's not in Tampa Bay, they're stupid as shit because they need to pay that man.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And I know they're in a little bit of cap hell right now with the Tom Brady contract still looming over their head, but they need to get it done. And talk about a team who, interestingly enough, and I thought about this the other night, mostly because my wife's out of town, so I have a lot of time to think about stupid shit like this. Look at what that team and a team like, and granted, one of them lost, but they both made the playoffs. A team like the St. Louis, the Los Angeles Rams did with, $70 to $80 million in dead cap. They're showing you that there is a hope for the Broncos to continue to be competitive and continue to build on something, even though they're going to have to take a giant, either stick with Russell Wilson or take a giant dead cap hit and just not be able to pay some people for a while. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have done that. Todd Bowles is a great coach. And Sean McVay proving his mettle again. He has found a bunch of young dudes and slid under the cap. The general managing there is working really well. There is a formula for the Broncos to be successful without Russell Wilson and without $80 million in dead hit. You're seeing it right now. There's 2 teams that have made the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's enough about that. Let's talk about next week, shall we? Or are we? What is happening? I see the door.
Yes, you guys can say goodnight. But it's only Uncle Gonzo today.
Where's Uncle Goon?
Aunt Mimi's in Kansas, and Uncle Matt is in
Mexico.
But you can say goodnight.
Hi!
Why does Mimi go to Kansas?
She had some work to do with one of your other great aunts. Wart. It's the elite sound from
But
Halo.
I thought Mimi was there every day.
Where, in Kansas?
No.
With me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been tough. She left Monday morning. She'll come back tomorrow night. I've had 3 days without her. This is actually the longest we've been apart since we've been together. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That's crazy. How's school?
Good.
Good?
Yeah.
What are you learning about today?
Can I get the picture to show you what I'm talking about?
Maybe in a little bit.
Can you go take that? Okay. Daddy lap time. Hey, Uncle Gonzo.
Wart. Hi, what are you doing?
Sitting on Daddy's lap.
Oh.
I wish this was smell-o-vision.
Smell-o-vision?
Yeah.
What do you think my house smells like right now?
It smells amazing because Daddy made lemon strawberry cookie dough, and then my mom cooked them.
Yum. Your dad's pretty good at making cookies, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah? He should start selling them, huh?
He does.
Oh, good. I'm glad he does.
Right, Daddy?
What?
You sell cookies?
I do.
Can I
Good.
talk? Daddy, how come we can't hear?
How come who can't hear it?
How come we can't hear what happens without the headphones on?
Because my computer's different.
Oh. They got a new computer?
Yeah, I got a new thing. Step back.
For those of you who are listening and don't see what's going on, there are children, and I am making funny faces at them.
Good night, Uncle Gonzo.
Good night, Jula.
Say good night. All right. Love you.
Good night,
Can I
Scarlett.
just hug it?
No. You say good night.
Good night. Yeah.
Good night.
Go away. I love you.
Bye.
Go bed.
Good night, girls.
Close the door.
The arm of Stan.
Yes. The woman behind the curtain.
Yeah. Thank you, Thing, for closing the door.
So now we move on to the
Now we move on. I have talked to Frank about this because Matt's picks were boring, but we're going to stick with him because I know Frank will do me a solid and make things interesting. Let's talk about this weekend, and let's talk about the divisional playoffs, and let's do some divisional pew-pew pick-em. We're going to just go down the board here. I'm going to mix them up one at a time here. So we're going to start on the AFC side, and we're going to talk about the name on the hat, the Houston Texans, going into Baltimore, where it's probably going to be pretty cold because Baltimore in January sucks. And the Ravens are at home, favored by 9.5 right now. The over-under on this game is 43.5 for the total. Ravens by 9.5 at home. Frank, what do you think about this one?
Okay, so unfortunately, I am going to be picking against my team, the hat again this week. The only reason I say that is not really because the Texans aren't good enough to win this game, because I think they actually are. But I think they're running into an issue, and that is the Ravens are so well built across the board that it's going to be hard to counter everything. And it's hard to account for even Lamar Jackson by himself. And I think that's going to be the issue, is you're not going to be able to slow that team down, I think. And they're very stout defensively still, especially against the run. So once again, if you can't run in January, it's hard to win in January. And I think that's the problem they're going to run into. Now, I think it's going to be closer than a 9-point game because that's out of control to have that big for the divisional round, I think. Wildcard weekend, I get it because there's some teams that don't belong there. But when you get to the divisional round, these are the best teams, and there's a reason that they're there. And I think it's going to be probably maybe a touchdown game at most, but I think the Ravens do end up pulling it out ultimately.
Matt agrees with you. This is, and I tend to as well. This is the Ravens all the way. I think that both teams are loaded with extremely young talent. I don't think anybody's found an answer yet for Isaiah Likely, and that's going to hurt Houston because I don't think that they have an answer yet either. There's just not enough tape on this kid.
No.
It reminds me a lot of, what was the name of the tight end for the Broncos that Julius
Thomas.
Thank you. Reminds me a lot of Julius Thomas when he was a rookie. He's a completely different player. He's bigger, but he's got that defining speed, and he's got insanely good hands. And when Julius Thomas hit the scene, nobody knew what to do with him. He was just that big. Isaiah Likely can block better too.
He can block, right? Yeah.
I just don't think that they've figured out an answer for him yet. And they have a couple other rookies too. And both teams are loaded with young talent. I just think that Baltimore is going to be much more prepared. Plus they had the week of rest.
Well, and even more than that, even though he's probably not going to be 100%, they are very likely to get Mark Andrews back this week. So that makes it even more dangerous that they'll have an additional threat.
2 tight end sets.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's a really good tight end combo they have there.
Oh my
And even as a
God.
distraction, having Andrews there to get Isaiah open a little bit more could do a lot. So, yeah.
You're not seeing it because you're not in the chat, but Matt is posting pictures of his dinner right now. They went to a steakhouse on the resort. The food looks amazing. Holy crap, it looks good.
Is it in Discord? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's on our family Discord.
Okay.
But he just posted a bunch of pictures, and holy crap, that food looks really good. Next game on the docket is one that is going to be near and dear to my heart, and that is because my lovely wife is so excited that her Green Bay Packers are doing what they were doing and are in the next round. And according to Vegas, this is a 55.5-point total. The Green Bay Packers are going to San Francisco. The 49ers are favored by 9.5 at home. This is the other team who had the bye, so I'm not surprised by the number. Matt picked the Niners at home in this one. Frank, what do you think?
I understand that pick. The 49ers are so dangerous, especially when they're at full strength. They're dangerous defensively. They're dangerous offensively. But there's where we run into the conundrum. They haven't had to be full strength for the last 3 weeks. And, usually that time is, to get people to mend, make people better. But the only issue is they actually ran into a problem during this time off. Christian McCaffrey injured his ankle again. And his calf apparently is having cramps and stuff like that. If he's not full strength, that takes away a huge part of this offense.
Oh, yeah.
It cannot be understated how much he has meant to this offense. He is the single biggest, besides maybe Trent Williams, the single biggest factor that the 49ers were so dynamic this year.
Agreed.
And I think that is going to cost them. I am taking the Packers
There it is.
to finally do what Aaron couldn't and win against San Francisco in the playoffs.
Ooh, Jordan Love's got some love from the Franklin. There's not really a deciding factor. We're not doing like wholehearted picks for, appetizers or anything like that.
We already won that.
we already kicked the shit out of that. Owned it, and everyone's ignoring me about the pizza coupons, so that's awesome. I'm like, where's my pizza coupons? Because we kicked ass.
I didn't get any. Where's mine?
Pizza. I know.
You guys can get free
I was
pizza.
going to get I know. I was going to give you free pizza, and nobody is giving me the coupons, so I can give them to you. This is my dilemma. But that's not important. What is important right now is that the Green Bay Packers are feeling a lot like, I wouldn't call them a team of destiny because there's no such thing. And I hate momentum because it's not a real thing. It's a collection of emotions and stuff. It's not just one kind of feeling that works like that. But if there was momentum, which Matt tends to be, that's like his deity sometimes. If there was such a thing as momentum, Green Bay's got it right now. And the 49ers have not played like you said, meaningful football in almost a month. It's been a solid almost 28 days since they played a real football game with full strength. Also, Brock Purdy is still Mr. Irrelevant. I get that he's playing out of his mind, but we're talking about Brock Purdy here. Like, we've seen how his struggles are when his talent isn't around him, right? Like, he's a completely different player when Christian McCaffrey's not on the field, when Deebo Samuel's not out there. And when you're missing Christian McCaffrey, he's not at full strength and he can't take, the bulk of the workload so that you can open up those other players, it makes it easy to cover the guys on the outside. And Green Bay, you said again, Joe Barry's not your guy, but that defense has a lot of very good young talent and they swarm. They swarmed very well. I've got Green Bay in this one too. Not even with the points. I want them outright. They're going to win the damn game.
No, that's what
they're going to win. damn game. Let's talk about a game that's going to be a lot of fun. These are two teams that the NFL didn't want to see in this. They just
Spot again.
they hate Detroit.
Yeah.
They hate Detroit. They do. They hate Detroit. The NFL hates Detroit. I don't know what it is, but they hate them. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they just don't like Baker Mayfield either. And neither does Matt. Matt, I'll go ahead and say it now. Matt would say Baker Mayfield is trash. Give me the Lions. And that's his analysis. He is taking the Lions. The Lions are favored by 6.5 in this one. The over-under on this game is 48.5 points. Bucks and Lions at home. What do you think? Does the dome make a difference with the weather?
Yeah, that dome in Detroit. Yeah. Ow. Sorry, 1 second. I just disconnected.
That's all good. It's all good. Technical difficulties abound. We are in good shape here. Detroit's got some things going for them. Both of these, I don't know. What are you thinking, Frank? What do you think about this?
I am thinking this is it's such a hard game to pick because the Bucs feel so good, especially after what they just did to the Eagles.
Careful how you say that.
Yeah,
it just feels so good.
It feels so good. And part of me is definitely leaning towards the Buccaneers. Just because the Baker Mayfield redemption tour seems like a thing. But if the Lions do what they can, which is number 1 run team in the league, and they feed that beast with Jahmyr Gibbs over there, and they get the ball to the sun god, Amon-Ra, they are going to do damage to this Buccaneers team, and I think that's how it's going to happen. I think Detroit overwhelms them offensively, and that's how it goes. Because this is going to be a tough game, I think, even though it's inside a dome. And the Buccaneers are actually no slouch on defense either. I don't know if a lot of people have realized that. They have a really good defensive unit this year. But that offense for Detroit, I think, is just going to be too much. And I think it's a 3-point game, not a 6.5-point game.
I had 6.5 points. Did I get it backwards?
No,
let me double check.
I'm saying
that.
I think it's a 3.
Oh, okay. I got you. Sorry, I thought I made a mistake.
No, I think this is going to be a 27-24 kind of game.
These are the two worst teams that are left in the playoffs to me. They're the most flawed teams.
Definitely.
In my perspective. Todd Bowles is a hell of a coach, and Dan Campbell is one of our favorites. Is a show favorite.
Knee-biting motherfucker, yep.
Fucking love it, man. Splitting kneecaps and busting wigs or whatever the fuck he says.
Somehow the biggest meathead in football, and he's a coach.
Oh, my God. And he's good. They buy into it. I think that this is a lot lower scoring. I think I would take the under in this one. I don't know. Todd Bowles is a hell of a football coach, and Mike Evans is one hell of a player. They just don't play team ball the way that Detroit does. And I think that's going to be ultimately what gets the Lions over the hump and gets them into the championship game for the first time since Jesus Christ walked on earth.
Was it 1956 or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was right around the Truman administration.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been like 70 years.
It's been ridiculous. So I'm happy for them to get there. I love everything that Tampa Bay's got going on. I feel like I'm really leaning into what the Bucs are doing right now. 1, because it pisses Matt off because he hates Baker Mayfield. 2, because I feel like this is a really good way of dealing with, like I said earlier, a cap issue. And I see the Broncos kind of going this way. Look for like a Sam Darnold type quarterback to be the holdover. And they just try to make it happen on $1 million quarterback salary. You know, look at the Broncos to try to match this. I mean, it is a copycat.
We have Jarrett Stidham.
I don't see them getting rid of him, and I see them getting another quarterback that's eerily similar to that style. It could be like a Sam Darnold who's on a redemption tour or whoever else, you know. If it's Ryan Tannehill, I'll burn everything that I own.
I really hope it's not Ryan Tannehill.
but it's going to be a quarterback like that. It's going to be, old helmetless Mason Rudolph or something like that.
I'd rather have Sam Darnold than Ryan
I
Tannehill.
of the three I just mentioned, Sam Darnold for sure. Like I don't know if I could handle Mason Rudolph being on this team,
No.
but that's it. I mean, that's what they're going to have to do to make this work for the next couple of years.
Again, if that's the case.
I hate Mason Rudolph so much. You just know he said something dipshitty to Myles Garrett that started
guaranteed
it.
He said some nasty shit to that dude to make him fucking swing a helmet like that.
Oh, bro, that doesn't just happen. Yeah. Like, come on.
You don't get a guy teeing off on you like that for some bullshit. He said something that cut that dude deep.
But I'm with you. I think the Lions take this one. I think this is the end of the Baker Mayfield Express, but he gets a big contract from Tampa Bay, and they're back.
And they're good next year with a little bit of freedom.
They're going to be fine. They're going to be just fine. This next game for me is the game of the week, and the lines show it too. So this is a 3-point game for the Bills at home over the Chiefs. The over-under on this game is the low. No, sorry, it's not the lowest, but it's close to the low over the weekend at 45.5 right now. Chiefs on the road. This is Patty Mahomes' first road playoff game. He goes into an environment he's very familiar with. It's going to be cold and miserable. He's used to that. At this point, he's very used to that. I think this is the best matchup of the weekend. Matt has the Bills winning at home. I don't know if he has anything to say about any of this stuff. So, Frank, I'm going to lean on your analysis a little bit.
This is, for good reason, the toughest pick of the weekend. These teams match each other in certain ways, but these teams got here to this point in very different ways. The Bills' offense seems to have turned into a juggernaut in the second half of the season, really, where they can do basically whatever they want on offense. And as long as old Josh Allen over there isn't going too gunslinger mode and throwing picks, they're hard to slow down. That's the problem, though. They're about to run into currently the best cornerback duo in the league with Snead and McDuffie. As a duo, they are hard to beat. We watched what Ladarius Snead did to Tyreek Hill last week.
Oh, it was amazing.
He beat his ass for 4 straight quarters.
Even Tyreek Hill came out on Twitter and said he got his ass beat by Snead.
Yeah, he's got sent to Cancun. Yeah. Because he was jamming him at the line. He was up his ass every single play. Like, he did not let that guy get a free pass during that game. And I think you're going to have the same thing happen for Kansas City to stay in this game, because offensively, they're still struggling. They have a good low-end number one receiver with Rashid Rice. Until he has more proof on tape, I'm not going to believe that he's a number one receiver.
I'll give you that.
You have Travis Kelce, who's
not healthy,
and he's been a magnet this year. He's been a magnet for safeties and linebackers. I kind of blame this on the Broncos for showing everyone in the league how to stop the Chiefs. And that is, you just make it so Travis Kelce goes nowhere and doesn't touch the ball. Because since that game, his production dropped off a fucking cliff. He's had, I think, one really good game since then, and that was against a weak defense. So, God, this game is so hard to pick. I am going to say that Buffalo finally pulls through, and that this 3 points makes sense. I think that in Josh Allen's mind, he knows what he has to do in this game, and I think McDermott is smart enough to know and I'm only saying that he's smart enough to know to get in his quarterback's ear this week and say, hey, gunsling when we need to, but we can win this game with you just playing good. With you just, making plays when you need to, but kind of letting the game flow a little bit, and you're not putting all of the pressure on Josh Allen in this game, I think they end up pulling it out. plus those two tight end sets they have with Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, that's going to be hard to get or hard to stop with the Chiefs' defense as it currently sits. So I'm going to lean very slightly in Buffalo's direction that they finally get the important win over Kansas City.
I want to do a little bit of a quick exercise with you and just see. And I'll play with you too. This will be kind of fun. This is on the spot. We haven't rehearsed this. This is something we haven't done before.
No, I have no idea what he's about to say right now.
No, but I think this could be kind of fun. I have a list of 4 categories that I feel like are not even. I feel like these two teams are very even in a lot of things. Like, their linebacker cores are very similar. Their offensive line and defensive line are very, very similar. So to me, in this game, it comes down to 4 things. It comes down to quarterback play, the play of your skill position players, your defensive backfield, and coaching. So I want to go through one by one, line by line, and make you pick a team for each of these categories and see if I line up with that. So let's start with the top. Do you prefer Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes?
As it currently exists, Josh Allen.
Skill position receivers and running backs.
How is it not the Bills?
I completely agree, and you're absolutely right. You actually kind of stole which is why I kind of went with this instead, because I was going to say something about the dual threat tight ends. They're the best tandem in the league,
and receivers, because if you let Gabriel and Diggs just do work, that's hard to slow down.
Defense, overall defensive play
this year, Chiefs.
I would agree with that, and
especially in the secondary.
Who gets the edge in coaching?
It's the Chiefs. They have a better coach.
So yeah, you've got 2 and 2. I would tend to agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas City won this just because Fat Andy's got something up his sleeve. And they're really good in these kind of games in cold weather.
Oh, yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo blew them out either. It's just one of those things. Both of these quarterbacks can implode at any moment. We've seen them both have terrible games this year. It, to me, is the most interesting game of the weekend.
Oh, definitely. It is such a coin flip game. The 3 points is 100% because it's home field.
Yeah.
That is why that 3 points exists. This is probably going to be the most tightly contested game. Barring what happened between Detroit and LA last week. These two teams match up in very different ways, but very well against each other. And it's going to be a huge struggle. And the only reason I'm leaning away from the Chiefs is because of the offense. Their offense has not been good. They had 2 really good games this year, and those were both early in the season. And I think once everyone realized that they don't have a serious threat on the outside, minus what Rashid Rice has been able to do recently, that's still a problem there.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to slow him down. Pacheco is an awesome running back.
But he's hurt.
Patty's seemingly
out
of it, some like in or out. Recently, like he's had some games where he looks like he's out of place, like he doesn't know how to run this offense somehow, and I don't know what to attribute that to, minus the fact that Kelsey's been in and out all year too.
I think he's finally lost faith in his receiving core, to be honest with you.
Couldn't you blame him?
No, not at all. Yeah, I think it's a natural reaction to what's happened for 18 weeks.
They legitimately have 3 of the worst receivers in the league on that one team.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
This felt like the year before.
Oh, sorry, 4. I forgot about Sky Moore. They have 4 of the worst receivers in the league.
This to me feels a lot like Eagles, Andy Reid, pre-TO. They need somebody else. That offense just looks so much better with a little bit of talent.
They need someone to take the top off of a defense, and they don't have that.
They don't have it. They don't have anybody with talent on this team. Nobody is scared of anybody on the Chiefs. Not even Kelsey.
Need a little bit.
What's that?
Jarius Sneed a little bit, but that's.
Oh, I mean, yeah, nobody's scared. Offensive skill possession wise, not even Kelsey is that scary.
Not this year, no, because they
Nico
know how to
Hardman
beat him
is
now.
straight trash. Rashee Rice is okay, but he's a rookie and he still can't run routes correctly.
Nope. Yeah. MVS is not good.
Oh, he's the worst, man. He is
Hardman's
fucking dog
not
shit.
good.
He is stealing money. MVS is stealing money in Kansas City.
McCole Hardman for the third year in a row is basically just a fucking pylon who can run really fast.
Yes.
Sky Moore is non-existent on the field, and that's because he can't fucking run routes and seemingly can't catch when he needs to.
No.
And Kadarius Toney may be the fastest man in the league that apparently can't do things correctly.
Does he wear shoes on his hands? Is that what it is? Do they need to check his gloves and make sure he's not wearing shoes?
Because that dude is a legitimate threat, and he was a fucking weapon in Florida. But seemingly all of that skill went out the fucking window when he got drafted.
His route running ability is great, and he can actually make separation and get open. His problem is primarily and 100% with these two things.
Well, and paying the fuck attention.
But that's part of it.
Out of place a lot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He doesn't understand the offense to save his life. But because of that, he's having to think too much, and he's trying to run with the ball before he gets it, and he just has the drop.
Exactly.
He's got the worst case of butterfingers I think I've ever seen a receiver have in this season. I've never seen it that bad. I've literally never seen somebody like maybe Des Bryant like 10 years ago had a pretty bad case of it, but he still had like 10 touchdowns. This guy can't hold on to the fucking ball to save his life.
What was that dude's name? Cowboys in the 70s.
Oh, fuck. You went old school ball on me. I'm not going to think of it.
God. Was it Bob Armstrong? No. What the fuck was that dude's name?
But
Hayes.
neither one of us.
Hayes.
Oh,
Bob
yeah.
Hayes. Bob Hayes. Fastest man in the league, but couldn't catch a fucking pass.
Well, and the Broncos had one of those here for a while with Marcus Nash, right? Like that guy was really great on a streak, but couldn't catch the ball and couldn't run a route other than a number 9.
Yeah, and that's all that Hayes would do too. Like he would just outrun everybody, and he'd catch it about 70% of the time.
Go route, go route, go route.
But it's the same kind of thing.
Marcus Nash experience.
Yeah, that's Kadarius Toney. He can run a route, but he's fast as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, when the ball gets to him, he can't do it.
And you can hide a guy like that if he's your third receiver. You know, I'm not talking
That's the
about.
problem. He is their like fourth receiver, but the other 3 ahead of him, one's a rookie and he's the best one, and the other 2 are fucking nonsense.
Right. Yeah. And you can hide a guy like that if he's not very good, if he is your third receiver and not your primary feed. The problem is Mahomes kept trying to find him because he was the only guy getting open for the first 10 games of the year.
And everyone will like, well, he didn't have great receivers last year and they won the Super Bowl. Okay. If you can say that any of these guys minus Rashee Rice should be a even number 3 receiver on a good team, you're full of shit.
I wouldn't take the Broncos.
Smith-Schuster was so far and above the talent level of the other guys on this team that it's repulsive when you look at it now.
I would take Jerry Jeudy rather than any of these guys any day of the week. I would take Marcus Mims Jr.
Who can't run a fucking route.
Any of these guys.
That dude can't run a route, but guess what? He can catch a ball every once in a while.
And he's prolific in blocking. He's gotten a lot better with his blocking. Yeah.
That's the other thing. These guys, and is it McCole? McCole might be the best blocker
he's
on their team, and I think that's why he's there, to be honest, because he can't fucking run a route. He very rarely gets the ball because he can't get open.
Yeah,
and he's supposed to be he's supposed to be one of the fastest guys in the league once again. But speed only kills if the speed is utilized correctly.
Right. It's crazy to me, but we'll see what happens this weekend. It'll be fun. We got to love the games, and that's the best part is we still have to watch the games, and we're always surprised by something that happens. It might be an edible mascot, or it could be, somebody. I'm just thinking about some of the craziest shit that's happened this football season.
I love Pop-Tarts.
Did you see the Pop-Tart Bowl's back next year?
I can't fucking wait.
What are they going to do to follow up with that? That's so crazy to me.
I don't know. You have to get the same dude because whoever was playing the Pop-Tart mascot was a fucking unit. I love that guy.
And apparently he was like, when he was on the sidelines, he was not silent.
No, he was fucking with the refs and the players.
Well, no, but he was like talking to people too.
Oh, yeah.
There are several stories on social media about the Pop-Tart talking to people and like force feeding them Pop-Tarts and shit.
His compilation was my favorite part of bowl season this year.
Oh, 100%.
Fucking loved the compilation they put together of him just dancing around, fucking with the refs, fucking with the mascot. Like, just being, that's what a mascot's for.
Absolutely.
He's there as a distraction for when stuff's not interesting in the field. And he did an amazing job of that.
Changed the world of football.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that there were other games that had to come out and be like, we don't have that. Sorry,
we
guys.
don't have that. Yeah, we're not gonna put a mascot in a giant fucking toaster at the end of this game.
With the sign, dreams can come true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the whole thing was just so great. Speaking of great, let's move on from the NFL and talk about the greatness that is the Denver Nuggets and Matt's weekly reminder that the best player in basketball, with the exception of last night, but we'll talk about that here in a minute, still lives in Denver, Colorado, and plays in the great city. The team has moved from 4th to 3rd since last we spoke about the NBA. The Nuggets had a really fun game last night in Philadelphia with a really strong back and forth, lots of lead changes and lots of big point swings in this one.
Yeah.
But to me, and I know you agree with this because we talked about it a little bit before we jumped on, to me, this one came down to maybe the worst coaching I've seen Michael Malone do in a long time.
Yeah, especially defensively. Offensively, the Nuggets looked pretty good, actually. They were able to score a decent amount of points. They got a lot of different players involved in that scoring, which looked good. But defensively, they did not do probably the one big matchup that they needed to. They needed big on big in this game. They needed Joker on Embiid, and I don't know if he played against him like one-on-one more than, 2 or 3 times the entire game. Why the fuck would you leave Embiid on anyone on the court besides Joker or Pope? Yeah. Those are the only two that should be on that guy that entire fucking game.
Listen, I'll tell you what, if it comes down to it in the playoffs and it's 78-78 at a halftime, coming out of halftime for a game, I'm telling you that the Nuggets are losing 90% of those games because that's not the kind of basketball that Denver plays. They play much better defensively than giving up 78 points at halftime. This was the worst coaching I've seen. They didn't make adjustments. They just kept letting him score. Michael Malone refused to call timeouts when he needed to. I get it. Philly's a very good basketball team. And yes, Joel Embiid is a really good basketball player. I've never questioned that. I've questioned his hustle and his heart a few times, but I've never questioned his skill. They could have defended him much better and would have eliminated a lot of those fourth quarter wide open looks that he got just by switching it up. And not only that, but the defense looked confused a lot. Jamal Murray was lost in a lot of defensive play on switches. There just didn't seem to be that much of, honestly, interest in playing basketball last night in Philadelphia.
And MPJ was a fucking liability defensively.
Shit show.
Yeah.
He was an absolute shit show.
An absolute liability in that game. And to even put the idea across the board that you're going to put him against Embiid, it's exactly why Embiid put a fucking 40 burger on the Nuggets.
100%. Your worst defender in your starting five is covering the best player in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah. Top 3 player in the league.
Yeah. Probably top 2, you know.
Yeah. Between him and Tatum and Giannis.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But and Joker.
No, Joker's number 1. I mean, he's in competition for second.
Okay, good. Okay. Right. But yeah, we are talking about top 5 talent and one of the biggest stars in basketball. And you have this guy is a liability. Your general manager went on record in an interview in the middle of the playoff run. Calvin Booth says, yes, we know Michael Porter Jr. can't play defense. They know he can't play defense from the top brass. So Malone knows he can't play defense. So why is he covering
watch a
that?
fucking game and you know he can't play defense.
Is your whole philosophy let fucking Embiid get his and then cover everybody else? Because you didn't do that either.
No.
You didn't do that either.
No, they gave up a lot of points to the second and third on that team too, and even honestly all the way to the bench.
Correct. It was offensively for the bench. It was the best I've seen them play. Neither team could play defense very well, obviously. Again, 78-78 coming out of halftime. That is atrocious. I don't care. And that's not fun. Like, that's just not the kind of basketball that I like watching.
That's an all-star game.
Yes, and it's not fun to watch. It was the worst defensive performance I've seen the Nuggets play in 2 years. It came on a terrible, terrible night to do so when you're in the national spotlight and everyone has been talking so much shit about Embiid since he sat against Joker last year.
Yeah,
when
that's
he came
a matchup
here,
we wanted to fucking see.
we wanted
Embiid versus Joker.
Why
put them on each other?
Or at least put KCP there. Why do we have the worst defender on the floor covering the best player in the building that night? It was awful to me. And that's 100% on Malone. I don't know what his philosophy was and what his thinking was, and I didn't check any press conferences or anything to see if he actually got asked any decent questions about why they refused to play defense in this game. But why did you refuse to play defense in this game?
Well, and even for Philly, like Joker, didn't have a huge amount of points. But that was mostly just because his field goal percentage was like the worst it's been in like 10 games.
Yeah.
Where he barely shot over 50%. Because he was getting open looks too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of them.
They couldn't, and if he hit 2 more shots, this game would have been different. They would have won it, but that's because defensively, neither of these teams stepped up to the plate.
No.
I mean, how does Joker have 19 fucking rebounds? Why is nobody getting rebounds around him?
Yeah,
how is he doing that?
I will tell you on the positive side, because I'm always trying to find positive things in places. That Peyton Watson had a pass to he was coming down the lane and had this no look pass to Christian Brown, where Christian Brown got an and one off of it.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that one?
Yeah.
Holy fuck. The ball movement.
Watson.
Peyton Watson looks like he's going to fit with this team very, very well for a long time. He's learning how to pass the ball from Joker, and it's very readily apparent.
I'm going to go ahead and pat myself on the ass for that one, because I called that. I said that Watson was the guy coming out that I'm like, he can actually do something. Watch this guy.
I haven't had the opportunity to watch a lot of Nuggets basketball this early in the year just because of things going on or, whatever. It doesn't matter. I haven't had the opportunity. Obviously, Jamal Murray looks okay. Michael Porter. Yeah. Aaron Gordon looks awesome. Michael Porter Jr. looks lost on the court. Joker's going to be Joker. Peyton Watson was impressive. I was very impressed with him. Very impressed. But that was my bright spot. Yeah, Christian Brown. But we,
off the bench, he's good. Yeah.
After the playoff run, we're all kind of expecting it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. He's getting his, 10 points off the bench, getting some rebounds. He's doing what he's supposed to do.
I am 100% encouraged by the loss of this game. I don't think that Michael Malone's going to have a fucking giant brain fart again. I don't know if he just had too many Philadelphia cheesesteaks and decided to sleep through this one, but it was just an awfully played game. In coaching wise, just not your best effort, bud. I think that they'll be fine. I like the depth of this team better than anybody else in basketball.
Oh yeah, long term, I think this is and their only reason they're in third because they have one more loss, I think.
Yeah.
Than the Timberwolves, and I think that's the only reason they're in third.
Well, they're they're not starting off very well on the road like they did last year.
No, then that's the other thing I was going to bring up. Their road split is kind of rough.
I know. I was leading you there.
Yeah, their road split is not great this year. They're 11-10. Oof. Oof. And I know that's like, it's on the road and they're still winning. Yeah, but this team on the road last year seem to be better.
Much better.
And I don't know. They need to get back to that where they need to, once again, might amount to defense. They need to step up defensively in these, because they've had a couple of these high scoring games this year that have gotten out of control. And
they're not going to win in a series like that.
No, and that's where they keep taking losses in these super high scoring games. They keep taking losses.
It's not Nugget basketball.
No, they need to figure out defensively how to slow down and get into the face. They have great defensive talent, so use it. Bury your guys that can't, cover on defense. Don't let them play one-on-one. Back them up. Do something. Rotate the interior. Do something to slow down the opposing offenses. Because they were much better at it last year.
I think they'll be okay. Joker's still doing Joker things. He's got he had another record.
He broke youngest player in NBA history to get to 13,000 points, 6,000 assists. 6,000 rebounds and 4,000 assists. So he broke wild. LeBron's stuff, all of LeBron's records in that one. So wild. Proving once again he is the best all-around basketball player, and he doesn't fucking care about your scoring title, and he still has 13,000 points.
Yep.
So
he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
They'll be fine. I think, this should hopefully be a wake-up call that they need to make some adjustments defensively. And I really hope that wasn't something that they did on purpose to just try to hide something for the future. Because if you're making adjustments and playing bad on purpose just because you're trying to hide something, and you do it on national TV in what has been most anticipated game this year.
Yeah.
That's just a bonehead move it's indefensible, but I think they'll get better. They'll learn from this and they'll be fine. I'm still not worried about them.
Well, and off night for Joker on the field goal percentage. He had a rough night, and that's not normal for him to honestly go under 60% shooting. So that'll get cleaned up. I guarantee it.
Yeah, and it's that's a pretty good way to talk about it. And, we're talking about cleaning things, and Kellen DeBoer cleaned his desk out in Washington, and there is a mass exodus out of the state of Washington. And I saw some memes saying the Husky has entered the portal.
Yeah,
they have lost their mascot. I don't know if I've ever seen something happen like this before. Granted, it's the NIL and everything's new every time, every week something happens. This is all new, but this Kalen DeBoer thing is just insane.
Well, we saw it happen last week to the team that Kalen DeBoer is going to. When everyone found out that Nick Saban was leaving Alabama, half their fucking team is like, oh, okay, see ya.
Yeah,
we're gonna do something else now. We're gonna do something.
I'm gonna go start a jazz band.
Yeah. So the exodus from Alabama seemingly is going to be replenished from Washington. Apparently, a lot of people, it's kind of looking like are going to be following Kalen DeBoer over to Alabama. And you know what? Good for him. It is hard to replace a legend, so the best of luck to you, because that is some tough fucking shoes to fill on that one. And good luck, Washington, because I'm pretty sure you guys are about to eat shit for a good year or two, trying to recover.
One of three teams still left in the Pac-12, technically.
Yeah.
So you have no conference, you have no coach, you have no players. Good luck, sir.
Yeah. Good luck figuring that shit out.
Be interesting to see what happens to Alabama in the next couple of years. I don't think they'll fall off much. Kalen DeBoer is obviously a pretty good coach, and I think I think they'll be okay.
He just unfortunately is going to be existing in the same conference of Georgia and Texas.
Right. Yeah, that sucks.
And LSU and yeah. Uh-oh. Yeah.
Well, I think that's enough about college football for the moment.
That's really all that happened this
Yeah,
weekend. To be honest,
nothing else really interesting happened.
we're getting Goldberg's kid in Colorado.
Say what?
Goldberg, Bill Goldberg,
Bill Goldberg.
his son Gage committed to Colorado. That also happened. That happened today, I think. Actually,
Is he going to be a linebacker?
I believe so. Yes,
We need linebackers.
we do need linebackers.
Bill Goldberg was a linebacker.
He was good
He
enough to play
killed-
for Atlanta.
He murdered a lot of people in the WCW / the E.
Mm.
Murdered them with one move.
2 moves.
Two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The spear and the jackhammer.
Spear jackhammer every match, and it was the most exciting 20 years of my life.
Yeah, for the most exciting 30 seconds in a game in a wrestling.
Oh
card.
man! And while we're talking about it, he came back and did that match against Brock Lesnar in the
match.
Do you remember that? That might be one of my
3-minute
top
match
10.
or whatever.
Oh my god! And it was a total Brock Lesnar just let him get over.
Oh, so hard. He speared the ever-living shit out of him a couple times.
3 times!
Yeah.
And then hit him with, 2 or 3 jackhammers, too?
Yeah, and then just pinned him, and it was 3 minutes total.
Yeah, Brock Lesnar had a couple of good punches, and I think feigned a spear or something. But it was total annihilation by Bill Goldberg. It was a total nod to the old veteran,
Oh, yeah.
It would never happen again. It was only because, Brock Lesnar is probably a big Bill Goldberg fan that it happened, but it was still one of the most exciting. I remember watching it because that was during COVID, and I was just going, "Holy fuck! I can't believe that's the way that went."
And Brock's also a big fan of getting paid and making sense out of that getting paid.
Right. That's true.
As much as he is kind of a destroyer, especially in WWE, he's always kind of presented. He's the beast. I mean, they call him the beast incarnate for a reason.
Yeah.
He's, that's who he was. He was a destroyer. He still is when he goes back. But he's a guy that's going to be there for a payday, and he's going to put over people when he needs to, and he's going to get his when he needs to.
Absolutely.
And he seemed to know that was a moneymaker to give that one to Goldberg. And then, they ended up making even more money on the fucking return match a few months later. So there you go.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was so well done. It was so well done. That might have been the last thing that I've ever watched live for WWE. I still follow it, but it's not a live thing anymore. But anyways, let's move on and talk about the NHL. Let's talk about the Avalanche, who had a much better performance last night than the Nuggets did. Down by 4 early, came back to win 7-4. They scored 7 unanswered goals and ended up beating. And Nathan McKinnon looks unstoppable at this point. I know I've been saying that all year, but Jesus Christ, man.
That dude is solidifying himself as, I think, going to be the MVP at this point. There's not many people even in competition with his, especially offensive output, is just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he looks unstoppable right now, which good for him and good for the Avs. And one of the main reasons we're sitting number 2 in the Central right now is because he put on a scoring clinic whenever he feels like it.
I am terrified about this team because they look deep as fuck and very athletic and fast and fun. I'm terrified because we have a problem in the goal. We have I would call a 1C starter who is playing right now record amount of time. And he's their number 1, but he would be somebody else's backup in a heartbeat and was somebody else's backup before he got here. Georgie was not a starter before he got here, and he is playing way too much hockey right now, and they have no idea what to do. Frankie's not coming back anytime soon, guys, and they need to figure that out quick.
Yeah, they're hurting. Not just in goaltending is a big part because his shots to goals is not good right now, and part of that is he's letting too many through, obviously.
But he's tired too.
He's tired, and he's got no defensive help.
No
They are
defensive help and no
so
backup
weak
goalie.
defensively, and there's no other goalie. So he is just eating fucking shots nonstop. And it's you can see it. You're wearing down 4 fucking goals again.
Yeah.
That's come on, dude. They have to figure something out because like you said, Frankie's not there. You need to figure something out. You need to give this guy time to fucking heal, to recover a little bit, because he cannot keep playing at this pace if they expect to make any kind of run in the playoffs.
There needs to be Joe Sakic needs to get on the phone and
Fleece some other motherfuckers.
Yeah, exactly. Make the NHL cower in fear again for a while. He needs to get on the phone and there's not another team in hockey that has any sort of eye on contention that one goaltender is playing more than 80% of the time.
No.
The NHL is not built like that anymore. There's not as many, you've got a couple of guys that can play that, but even those guys this portion of the season are not playing that much because they know that they are going to be leaned on during the playoff run. So now you're just trying to get a record and get into the game before you start playing every night, right? And if you're going to wear him out now, he's going to be useless come the postseason.
And if we're being honest, minus a couple of players in the history of the NHL, scoring is so much more prolific. Offense is so much more prolific than it has ever been, that you need to have multiple people because they're going to be taking more shots. You're getting more shots thrown at you than you really have ever had. And it's just because the offense is so dominant now in this league that, you need to have more than one person that can be a netminder. You need to have that, honestly, 70% split at the high end. And we just don't have it. We need someone. We need someone that can sit there, two or three times, or no, 2 times a week, maybe.
So I decided just for the fun of it just now, I decided to look up, and I am looking at quanthockey.com. I don't know anything about this website, but it was the first thing that searched. So there you go. I am looking at total number of games played and total number of minutes amongst goaltenders in the NHL. Georgie is number 1, and it's not even close. So I'll give you the top 5 leading up to Georgie. Number 6 is Demko from Vancouver, has 31 games played and is 846 minutes. 1,846 minutes. Above that is Sorokin from the Islanders at 32 games, 1,886 minutes. Above that is Hellebuyck. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. From Winnipeg, he is at 1921 minutes. Okay. And 32 games played. Bobrovsky from Florida is number 3 with 33 games and 1,949 minutes. Number 2 is Saros from Nashville, who's played 34 games and has only been in 1,886 minutes. Now we're talking about Georgie, who has 3 more games played than any other goalie in hockey. So he's got 37 games. The next closest is 34. As far as minutes are concerned, the next closest to him is 1949 from Bobrovsky. And Bobrovsky is a true number 1 goalie, right?
Yeah.
He can do that. Georgie is at 2,100 minutes and 2,157 minutes. He has over 200 more minutes played so far than any other goaltender in hockey.
And, to even further put that
going to kill him.
Yeah. Put that in further perspective. Florida is 44-27. They're number 2 in the East.
Yeah.
In the Atlantic. The Islanders are 44, or no, did I say that wrong? I said that wrong. 27-13. I read that wrong.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
27-13. The Islanders are the worst team out of the ones you mentioned there, and they're 19-15. They're really not a good team, but
no,
that's probably why he's spending so much time in the net. Nashville is 24-19. They're literally a couple games behind us, actually,
Yeah.
in the Central.
Well,
Vancouver is 29-11.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys, like you said, minus dude from Islanders, Soroka, who's honestly their biggest issue is they can't fucking score, to be honest. But all those other teams have backup goalies and are at the top of the standings because they have other goalies.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saving these guys. These are people we're going to play against if we get into the playoffs. These are teams we're going to play against.
Mm-hmm.
Because that they're smart. They have their number one guy, but they also have a number two guy that can sit in the net every once in a while.
You're going
every
to kill
5
him.
games. You need another guy for that 5th game. And
you're going to kill him.
You're going to kill him. He's going to, because the goal we have given up so many points that the fact that we're ranked that high is basically just built on the fact that we score 5 goals a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or that's all it is that we have really
offense.
good scoring. That's what's keeping us in games, is that we can outshoot people between Rettinen and McKinnon, and they can outpace people. That's the only reason. But that doesn't last in the playoffs.
No.
Look at the playoffs. That doesn't happen. You're not going to win because of scoring. You're going to win because you have someone that's good in the net and you have defenders.
Yeah, right.
Look at the championship team. They could score like a motherfucker, but they could also defend against any team.
The two teams in the Stanley Cup last year were both led by goaltending.
Oh yeah,
and defense.
Yeah,
I mean, Florida is not a slouch. Bobrovsky is a great goalie.
Yeah, and they're number 2. The only team beating them right now is Boston.
Yeah, and that's another prime example. Yeah. They have 2 really good goaltenders, and it's like a 60-40 split.
Take one of theirs.
No, you leave my hugging goalies alone. They're fucking fine where they are. My hugging goalies are still hugging, and I love every fucking second of it. And they're fine where they are. Okay,
I have a hatred for Boston sports, and you know that.
I know.
They have screwed Denver way too many times.
I know. I understand this, and I relish in every single moment of it. But you leave my hugging goalies alone. They are fine where they are, sir.
But yeah, so Avs look good offensively. They are hurting defensively and goaltending, and they need to make a change. They need to do something to add to our net to just take some of the pressure off of Georgie and let him get to a point where he's, not giving up four goals a fucking game.
And you're, for the next at least month, probably, you're going to be missing one of your biggest stars, and that is Valeri Nichushkin, who has posted that he has checked himself in to get himself cleaned up. This is the second player from this group of players this year that has left to go into substance reform program. Val Nichushkin has had some issues already very recently. We've well documented on this show that we've talked about it.
Extensive documentation over that.
And I hope that I'm interested to see what you say, and I want you to, don't hold back on your opinions. I hope Val Nichushkin gets the help that he needs. I don't know what that means as far as, his playing or whatever, but the hardest part of going through that process is realizing that you have a problem and then utilizing all the tools around you to help yourself with that problem. You have to be humble to get into something like this, and I hope that he's humble enough to stick with it. And I hope nothing for the best for him. If he's doing everything he needs to do to become a better version of himself, then I wish him nothing but the best. And I hope you get the help you need, man. Frank, what do you think?
I agree 100%, because I actually, unfortunately, with all those issues he's had dating back to last year, right in the middle of our playoff run, when he had to step away from the team, that this is all kind of calling back to behaviors leading up to that. And we ended up missing him in the playoffs last year. We needed that. We needed another guy just to get on the ice, if nothing for, if for more than no other reason, we need another body out there to give some people rest. And his importance, shouldn't be overlooked because he is a very effective player when he's collected and, in the right mindset. And he's evidently not. He's not in a good place right now. And, thankfully, the NHL is kind of letting him step away from the game. And thankfully, Avalanche are letting him step away to take time to fix that, whatever issues he's having right now, and to help him get past it because he needs it apparently. And if he wants to take that time, then that's good for him.
But I think that, yeah. Am I back? I think my computer freaked out there for a second. Am I back?
You are back. Yep.
Okay, good. I think my computer freaked out there for a second. ESPN threw me off. Valentin Yushin is in the top 5 in goal scoring currently in the NHL. He's there with Nathan McKinnon, who's obviously having, like we said, an MVP season. They're going to miss that goal scoring, but that's what he needs to do to get right and help his team longer, or just be a better human.
Help himself, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope he gets the help that he needs, and we're in support of this stuff. I am very specifically in support of this stuff for obvious reasons.
And I ran into some issues at a certain point in my life, also to where I stopped drinking before I turned 21 for a reason.
Right. Yeah. And so both you and I are very supportive of
so I'm
all for self-interests.
Get your mental health good so that you can get your life good, and then you'll be a better athlete after that.
This podcast is 100% in support of positivity and mental health. We have done many bits on that, and so I'm all here. If he's getting better, then man, great for you. I do want to end the hockey bit on a high note. So I'm going to just tell you guys that breaking news, Gabriel Landeskog has been caught on skates this week. He has been skating. For those of you who don't know, during the playoff run, he got hurt and has had an issue that's similar to Forsberg's issue back in the day. It's not something that a lot of hockey players come back from, and most guys don't. And they don't even return to skates. We are talking within 2 years. This guy is. Am I saying he's going to come back and play for the Avalanche this year? No, I don't even know if he's in the country, but I'm sure he is. I'm honestly positive that he is, and he's probably there with his team. But I know for sure that he was spotted on ice skates in a rink skating around. No timetable again on his return. He's still out. No. But the fact that he's on ice skates in this part of his recovery is huge.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah, we need the captain back.
Oh, yeah. I've been screaming that.
Yeah.
And they're missing Eric Johnson, too. I mean, that would solve everything.
That'd solve a lot, yeah. No, that's amazing news. I didn't even hear about that. That's fantastic.
I heard that this morning, and I thought I'd run that in there.
No, that's super awesome. Good for him.
Wedge it open and then break open the door and then steal the car. I don't know why I went there, but
I don't either, but it's cool. Just roll with it.
I just was gonna wedge it, and then I thought about those little wedging devices where you pump up the bag and then break into the car and then you steal it. So this is it's getting there anyways. It is time. It is that portion of the show where we like to make fun of people for doing dumb things. I don't have one for Mr. Matt, so I'm going to turn this one over to Frank. Go, Pack, go. All right. I'm down.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have my wife is a Packers fan, so yeah.
We push that narrative.
Yeah, we actually you will see that the Packers are circled. You can't see it, but there it is, Packers circled. We picked the Packers this weekend, this past weekend, and we picked the Packers again over the 49ers. You can see it written down there. So, yeah, go Pack, go. We're with you. My brother won't say that, but, we're with it. Goes with our picks, so we want to root for him, right?
Exactly.
Frank, you got a dipshit of the week?
I'm putting the refs on the back burner this week.
Okay.
I still don't like them, but I'm putting them on the back burner for this week. And
they're
I'm
really bad.
unfortunately going to have to take shot at one of my favorite players when I was younger. And Carmelo Anthony decided to open his dumb fucking mouth
I was hoping he'd go there.
about the number 15 in Colorado, saying that the only reason they put it on Jokic is to make him look bad. I'm sorry, dude. I loved Melo. I wanted
Me
Melo
too.
when he
Me
came
too.
out. I was so happy that they took Melo. That dude's a prolific scorer. I was a fan of his at Syracuse. I loved Melo. He walked away from our team because he wanted the bright and shiny lights of New York.
Yep.
And leading up to him walking away, he was a great scorer, and that was it. He was not a team leader. He was not a defensive savant. He was not anything outside of a prolific scorer, which is fantastic for him. But he didn't do enough in Colorado to deserve a retirement on his number. That's the first part. Second part, Nikola Jokic has been wearing the number 15 since he started playing basketball. And the reason he wore number 15 is because it was the biggest jersey and he was the biggest fucking kid in the room. So the only reason he wears number 15 is because that's what he's always worn. And if you think the Nuggets somehow predicted the future with a doughboy second round pick and we're just doing it to slap Carmelo Anthony in the face, you are completely outside of your fucking mind. And for that reason, Melo, you left us, not the other way around. You're the dipshit.
I was hoping you went there, and you hit almost exactly every single point that I would have had I done this. You're absolutely right. Nobody would have ever guessed that Nikola Jokic, who wasn't even in the United States his first year in the league, because he was still playing for Serbia. They drafted him and then had to wait for him. Nobody thought that he was going to be the best player in basketball.
No.
The guy has always worn the number 15. Carmelo, I loved you, buddy. I loved watching you play basketball. You were so good. And I loved it when Allen Iverson was on the team. That was peak for me.
Loved it.
Because Allen Iverson was him and Charles Barkley were two of my favorite players going up. And to see him in a Nuggets uniform with the man who saved the Nuggets franchise, because let's not put anything on there. Carmelo Anthony coming here saved the Nuggets.
Oh, it was huge.
They were garbage. They were completely garbage. And they had been for a long time, and they were a laughing stock. Do you remember when we had a head coach fired mid-season for having a mid-afternoon game and calling somebody a racial slur, so they had to fire him?
Yeah.
Remember those Nuggets? Remember the Nuggets that only won like 19 games one year? Remember it was like the second worst team in NBA history? Those are teams that I remember in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Melo, you played here for a long time, buddy, and you were very good. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I do disagree with the fact that he wouldn't have had a retirement here. I don't know if they would have had a retirement necessarily, but at least given him some credit and like put a Melo jersey. I don't know what they have done.
They already did that.
Yeah. So
he's still got a picture on the wall in that state.
Exactly. They could put a statue of him up for all I care about. Like he was a great. Now I don't want him there because he's now attacking the town.
Yeah.
He's not just going after the Cronkies at this point. He's coming after me as somebody who supported him. And there are millions of fans here who supported Carmelo Anthony, even through his bullshit and after it when he went
and calling us a fucking cow town.
Yeah.
When he split for New York. Yeah.
Yeah. And I still supported him after that. I was like, you go do you, man. I don't care. Like, bro, it's not a big deal. But now he's making it a deal again. It's because you and your wife aren't doing great and you need to be in the news. And so this is what you're going to do. Fuck off, bro.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
You know, we as Denver fans, I have never really heard anybody shit on Melo at any point, minus his defense, and that's because he couldn't play fucking defense, and we all know that. And if he's surprised by that comment, he hasn't paid attention for the last 20 years.
Right.
we never took shots at Mello. We understood he wanted the bigger time. He wanted the bigger, television, all that. And he left to play for New York to do that.
Yeah.
And we never took shots at him. We invited him back.
Yeah.
Now you can fuck off, because that's just disrespectful, dude. Like, why the fuck would you think that way?
It's a shot at the fans.
Yeah.
Like, I get you're going after the company or whatever, but to us, you called out Denver. You didn't call out the Nuggets.
Yeah.
You called out Denver. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you, dude. Honestly. Fucking washed out.
So yes. Do you have a dipshit of the week?
I'm going to go back a little bit, and we were talking about it earlier in the podcast. I made note of it, and I don't know the reporter's name off the top of my head, but Todd Bowles was having a press conference yesterday, I believe, and they were talking about the Buccaneers, and they were talking about the game coming up, and it was a pregame before they went, and I think it was a local Tampa Bay reporter came up with the question, hey, you've been playing in great weather this whole year. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit. I don't know the exact quote, but what do you think you have to do differently when you go to Detroit and have to deal with the elements when it's 20 degrees in Detroit this weekend? Listen here. They haven't played outside in Detroit in over 50 years.
Yeah. There's a reason.
They've had a dome for 50 years because they know the weather is garbo there.
Yeah. And unlike the other Lake Erie teams, they apparently didn't want their fans to suffer any further.
Yes. Yes. They're in a dome. They're in a dome.
Mm-hmm.
The weather has nothing to do with football at this point.
No.
So Todd Bowles' response was fucking phenomenal when he was just like, well, they're in a dome, so nothing.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, like, was it someone who's not used to doing NFL?
Maybe.
Was it just a beat reporter they threw out there to,
Maybe it was a meteorologist.
Yeah.
Some news station didn't have a reporter beat or something.
Or was it just a massive fucking slip of the mind that nobody plays outdoor sports in Detroit unless it's the Red Wings and it's a classic, like one of the Winter Classic games?
Picture this. You wake up in the morning and you're a reporter and you're like, okay, today's the news conference. Mm-hmm. Who knows what station or radio place you work for or whatever. So you've had your regular, whatever your job is, right? Whether you're the morning DJ or you talk sports for 20 minutes on the news. And so you're thinking about, like, I'm going to see if I can ask Todd Bowles a question. I'm going to do it. You know what reporters do? They think about what they're going to say. They have to for hours because that's their job.
Mm-hmm.
You had to think about that question for hours before you asked it for him.
Yeah.
Did somebody feed you that question? I hope so.
Yeah, I would hope so. Because holy shit. To ask that question in that situation, like, what the fuck?
She's getting ridiculed, and I'm here for it. Like,
yeah, sorry, like it's not a personal shot. I don't know who you are as a human being.
That's one of the reasons why I didn't look it up.
If you're a reporter, you should have base knowledge of the thing that you're reporting on. And to ask a question about Ford Field and its weather conditions is fucking ridiculous. It might be a bitch to get in and out of the parking lot, but that's about it.
Somebody who had just watched the game in Buffalo and was just like, fuck it, they all play outdoors. I don't know what's going on. They're all outdoors.
All of them's outdoors. I'm going to ask this super important question because of what happened with Miami playing in Kansas. And
she saw one touchdown with the snow flying in the air in Buffalo and was like, all right, everyone's playing outside now.
Yeah, I think it was a half and half game. They got two things mixed up. Like, oh, well, Miami just had to play in the Midwest and it was really cold. And there was a snow game. Those are the same thing, right?
That's just how football is.
Yep.
So yeah, that was
Yeah.
dipshit of the week.
Yeah.
What a fun show, man. This was fun. This was a good time. Since you asked for him, you want to do the social thing?
Yes, I will. So for my brother's an idiot. I am Tank. This is Mark. You can find Mark on it's Twitch, Twitter, and TikTok at Poffeltime. You can find our other co-host, who's not currently here, Matt, also known as King Goon and sometimes not Primetime, at Twitch and Twitter at Puffaluffagus and his TikTok at King Goon Smoke. You can find me at Tank Knox or Knox Nostalgia Collectibles on all the socials. You can find My Brother's an Idiot on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Twitter, and Twitch. You can see us next week. We will be back with an Idiot Scramble at some point, and we will be back with the NTK cast next week, which I know at least part of the discussion is going to be about my burning hot takes on the entertainment industry.
Oh, if you liked the stuff here, tune into that one. We're going to have a blast on that show.
I'm going to piss a lot of people off next week.
It's going
So
to be
tune in.
so good.
Tune the fuck in for that. But
This is must watch. This is must watch.
for our missing co-host, King Goon and Milty and
Muty.
and Dipshit, we miss you all.
Yeah.
And we hope to have you back next week. And for myself and Mark, we'll see you later. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.
Sandy forgot to mention Gene Mingo, bro.
Oh, Gene Mingo. How's she
Sandy
barking
just
at?
yelled at me. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Because of the Cleveland Spiders, bro.
Bruh.